The stars trembled before the Krell. For 3,000 years, their empire grew without challenge. Their living warships cut through space like knives through water, adapting to any defense they met. 17 star nations fell in the last 10 years alone. Each defeat made the Krell stronger. Each victory added more knowledge to their vast collective mind. Admiral Vexnar stood on the command platform of his flagship. His gray skin reflected the glow of nearby consoles. 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed the battle plans. The conquest of this sector was almost complete. Only one species remained defiant: the humans. Such a primitive species, Vexnar said to his second-in-command. They have barely reached the stars, yet they refuse our generous terms. Perhaps they have not yet understood the honor of joining the collective, replied Commander Zex. Their neural patterns will make a fine addition to our knowledge base. Vexnar's mouthparts clicked in amusement. They will understand soon enough. On the far side of the sector, Captain John Mercer received the worst orders of his career. The holographic display in his quarters showed the grim face of Fleet Admiral Garcia. Captain, I won't sugarcoat this. Earth's evacuation is underway, but we need time. Your ship is the only one with even a slight chance against the Krell. Mercer ran a hand through his short brown hair. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. The Defiant is still experimental, sir. The quantum displacement drive has only been tested twice in combat situations. It's all we've got, Garcia said. Every simulation shows the same result. The Krell will reach Earth in 6 days unless something delays them. And that something is us, Mercer said quietly. You don't need to win, Captain. Just buy us time. Even a day could save millions more civilians. After the transmission ended, Mercer stared at the wall for 5 full minutes. Then he called the bridge. Lieutenant Walsh, plot a course to intercept the Krell advance fleet. Maximum displacement. Sir. Walsh's voice showed surprise but not fear. That would put us directly in their path with no backup. Those are our orders, Lieutenant. Execution immediate. Mercer made his way to the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. The ship was humanity's newest vessel, built with technology that pushed the limits of human understanding. It wasn't large, only 320 meters from bow to stern, but it contained innovations that had never been tested in full combat. The bridge crew fell silent as Mercer entered. They had all heard rumors about the Krell, how their bioships could heal during battle, how they learned and adapted to enemy tactics in real time. No one had ever defeated them. I won't lie to you, Mercer said, looking at each officer in turn. We're heading into a fight we're not expected to win. Earth is evacuating. Our job is to buy time. Lieutenant Samantha Walsh looked up from the tactical station. Her dark eyes showed determination rather than fear. How much time do they need, sir? As much as we can give them, Mercer replied. Chief Engineer Alan Carter's voice came over the comm. Captain, the quantum drive is ready, but I should warn you, we've never pushed it past 3 consecutive jumps. The cooling system isn't designed for extended use. Noted, Chief. We'll deal with that problem when we reach it. The Defiant trembled as the quantum displacement drive engaged. Unlike conventional engines, it didn't move the ship through space. It moved space around the ship. The stars outside the view screen stretched and then snapped back into place as the Defiant arrived at its destination. Lisa Nguyen at Communications looked up from her console. Sir, I'm detecting Krell communication signals. They don't know we're here yet. Mercer nodded and took his seat in the command chair. Let's see if we can surprise them. All hands to battle stations. Prepare to engage the enemy. The red alert klaxon sounded throughout the ship as the crew prepared for humanity's first real stand against the Krell Empire. The Defiant hung in space like a small silver fish before a school of sharks. The ship's stealth systems worked perfectly. The Krell scout vessels moved past without noticing the human warship. Lieutenant Samantha Walsh studied the enemy formations on her tactical display. Her fingers traced patterns that others couldn't see. After 3 years analyzing alien battle tactics, she had developed an instinct for their weaknesses. "Captain," she said quietly, "I'm seeing something unusual in their formation. The lead ships maintain a precise distance from each other, but the pattern breaks around this vessel here." She pointed to a larger bioship near the center of the Krell formation. Mercer leaned closer. "What do you make of it, Lieutenant?" "It's either damaged or it's so important they're protecting it. Either way, it's a weakness." Mercer nodded. "Good work. Mr. Carter, status of our phase shields." The chief engineer's voice came through the comm. "Ready as they'll ever be, Captain. Just remember, they've never been tested against Krell weapons." "Let's hope today isn't the day we find out they don't work," Mercer said. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Ms. Nguyen, any change in Krell communications?" Lisa Nguyen shook her head. "No, sir. Still standard patrol chatter. They have no idea we're here." "Perfect." Mercer returned to his command chair. "All hands, battle stations. Lieutenant Walsh, plot a course directly through their formation. Target that central vessel." The bridge fell silent. Even Walsh looked up in surprise. "Sir, did you say through their formation?" "I did, Lieutenant. The Krell expect us to run or attack from the edges. They've never faced a ship that could penetrate their defenses. We're going to show them something new." As the crew prepared for battle, Carter made his way to the bridge. The chief engineer rarely left his engines, but this was different. His new phase shield technology would face its first real test. "Captain," Carter said as he entered, "I've rerouted additional power to the forward shields. We'll need every bit of it for this crazy plan." Mercer nodded his thanks. "Take the engineering station, Chief. I want you monitoring those shields personally." The Defiant's engines hummed to life. The stealth systems disengaged as power flowed to the weapons and shields. Immediately, the Krell ships began to react. "They've spotted us," Nguyen called out. "Krell communication traffic just spiked." "Time to make our move," Mercer said. "Full impulse. Take us straight through their front line." The Defiant shot forward like an arrow. The first Krell ships fired, their biological weapons releasing bursts of energy that rippled through space. The phase shields flickered as they absorbed the impacts. "Shields holding at 92%, Carter reported, his eyes fixed on his displays. "The phase modulators are adapting to their weapons frequency." Inside the Krell command ship, Admiral Vexnar received the alert with disbelief. "A single ship, attacking our entire fleet." He leaned forward, all 6 eyes focusing on the tactical display. "What species would be so foolish?" "Humans, Admiral," Commander Zex replied. "The same ones who refused our terms. And now they send one ship on a suicide mission." Vexnar's mouthparts clicked rapidly. "Fascinating. Perhaps their neural patterns will be more valuable than we thought." But as he watched, the human ship did something no enemy had ever done before. It withstood concentrated fire from 5 Krell vessels and continued on its course. "Impossible," Vexnar whispered. "No shield technology could withstand that bombardment." On the Defiant, Walsh called out targeting solutions as the ship plunged deeper into the Krell formation. "Target locked on their central vessel, sir." "Fire all forward weapons," Mercer ordered. The Defiant's experimental quantum torpedoes launched. They didn't travel through space in the normal sense. They phased in and out of reality, making them impossible to track or intercept. They struck the Krell command ship with devastating effect. For the first time, in 2 centuries of warfare, Admiral Vexnar felt the deck shudder beneath his feet. Warning signals flashed across his command console. "Damage report," he demanded. "Hull integrity compromised in 3 sections, came the response. "Biological repair systems activated, but they're struggling to adapt." Vexnar couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans had weapons that their living ships couldn't immediately adapt to. "Focus all fire on that vessel," he ordered. "I want it destroyed now." The Defiant shook violently as Krell weapons fire surrounded it from all sides. On the bridge, Emergency lights flashed as systems struggled to keep up with the damage. Shields down to 47%. Carter called out, his fingers moving rapidly across his console. The phase modulators are overheating. We can't take much more of this. Captain Mercer gripped his chair as another blast rocked the ship. Lieutenant Walsh, what's our status on the target? Walsh studied her tactical display through the haze of smoke that had begun to fill the bridge. Their central vessel is damaged, sir. Our quantum torpedoes hit something important. They're trying to protect it by surrounding it with other ships. Perfect, Mercer said. Nguyen, what are you picking up from their communications? Lisa Nguyen adjusted her earpiece. It's difficult to translate, sir, but they seem confused. I'm hearing the same word repeated. It translates roughly to impossible or unexpected. Mercer allowed himself a small smile. Good. Confusion leads to mistakes. Let's make another pass at their command ship before we retreat. Sir, Carter interrupted, the shields won't hold for another direct assault. Then we'll have to be faster than their weapons, Mercer replied. Helm, prepare for maximum impulse, pattern delta. We go in fast, hit hard, and get out faster. The Defiant banked sharply and accelerated. The damaged Krell vessels tried to track it, but Walsh had calculated their firing patterns. The human ship slipped through gaps in their coverage, taking minimal hits. Inside his command vessel, Admiral Vexnar watched with growing frustration. The small human ship moved in ways he had never seen before. It was as if they could predict where Krell weapons would fire. Lock all weapons on their projected course, he ordered. They cannot possibly evade a full barrage. But the Defiant did exactly that. As the Krell fired, the human ship seemed to dance between the energy blasts. It approached the damaged command ship with alarming speed. Fire everything we have, Vexnar shouted. The Defiant launched its remaining quantum torpedoes just as Krell weapons found their mark. The bridge exploded into chaos as consoles overloaded and circuits blew out. Direct hit, Carter shouted over the noise. Shields failing. Get us out of here, Mercer ordered. Emergency jump. The quantum displacement drive engaged. Space warped around the Defiant, and suddenly the ship was 2 light minutes away from the Krell fleet. Damage report, Mercer demanded, helping a fallen crew member back to their station. Shields offline. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Emergency force fields holding. Weapons at 30%. Quantum drive critically overheated. We won't be jumping again anytime soon, Carter reported grimly. And the Krell? Walsh checked her sensors. Sir, our last torpedoes hit their mark. The command ship is severely damaged. The entire fleet has stopped advancing. They're regrouping. Mercer moved to her station and looked at the display. The Krell formation had indeed halted its advance toward Earth. They're reassessing, he said quietly. No one has ever hurt them before. They don't know what to make of us. Back in the Krell formation, Admiral Vexnar struggled to understand what had happened. 3 of his bioships were destroyed, and his command vessel needed extensive repairs, all from a single human ship. Send scouts to find them, he ordered. I want to know where they went and how they did this. Admiral. Commander Zex said carefully, perhaps we should delay the advance until we understand their technology better. Vexnar wanted to refuse. In 3 centuries, he had never delayed a conquest. But the human ship had done the impossible. It had survived an encounter with the Krell and inflicted damage. Very well, he said finally. We will analyze this encounter before proceeding. But I want that ship found. Whatever technology they possess must be added to the collective. In the nebula where the Defiant had hidden itself, Mercer received the news with cautious optimism. Sir, Nguyen said, looking up from her console. Earth reports the Krell advance has stopped. They're asking how we managed it. Mercer looked around at his battered bridge and exhausted crew. Tell them we showed the Krell something they've never seen before. Humans who refuse to give up. Hidden within the swirling gases of the nebula, The Defiant drifted silently. Inside the ship, emergency repairs were underway. The crew worked tirelessly, knowing that their survival depended on getting systems back online before the Krell found them. In the makeshift lab on Deck 3, Dr. William Grant studied the biological samples they had collected from the damaged Krell vessels. The ship's xenobiologist had never seen anything like them before. Fascinating, he muttered as he adjusted his microscope. The cellular structure changes even as I watch. Captain Mercer entered the lab, looking tired but determined. Tell me you found something useful, Doctor. Grant looked up with excitement in his eyes. More than useful, Captain. I think I've discovered how the Krell coordinate their attacks. He pointed to the screen showing magnified Krell tissue. See these structures. They're quantum-entangled neurons. They can communicate instantly across any distance. Is that how they adapt so quickly during battle? Exactly. Each ship shares information with all others instantly. But there's more. Grant pulled up another image. These aren't just Krell cells. I've found neural patterns from at least 7 different species mixed in with their biology. Mercer's expression darkened. They'd assimilate other species. Not just their knowledge, their actual neural patterns. The Krell aren't just conquering the galaxy. They're absorbing every intelligent species they encounter. Before Mercer could respond, the intercom activated. Captain to the bridge. We've detected movement nearby. When Mercer arrived at the bridge, Walsh was already tracking the contact. It's a Krell scout ship, sir, searching the nebula. Current trajectory will bring it within sensor range in 12 minutes. Can we move without being detected? Chief Engineer Carter shook his head. Main engines are still offline. We have maneuvering thrusters only, and using those would give away our position instantly. Then we need to be proactive, Mercer decided. Security Chief Rodriguez, I need a boarding party. We're going to capture that scout ship. Maya Rodriguez, the ship's head of security, nodded firmly. My team is ready, sir. But boarding a Krell vessel has never been done before. There are a lot of things that have never been done before this mission, Mercer replied. Let's add another to the list. Using the Defiant's remaining shuttle, Rodriguez led a team of 6 security officers toward the approaching Krell scout. The small vessel's stealth systems helped them approach undetected. Remember, Rodriguez told her team, we need prisoners and data. Set weapons to stun where possible. Boarding the Krell ship proved easier than expected. The living vessel had focused its defenses outward, not inward. The human team cut through an outer membrane and entered the organic corridors of the alien ship. It's like we're inside a giant organism, one officer whispered as they moved through passages that seemed to pulse with life. They encountered 3 Krell crew members and managed to stun 2 of them. The third was killed in the brief firefight. Rodriguez ordered the captured Krell and as much biological data as they could gather to be transferred to their shuttle. On the Defiant, Mercer received the news of the successful mission with relief. Get them back here immediately. The scout will be missed soon. Once the boarding party returned, Dr. Grant began examining the Krell prisoners while Nguyen worked to decode the data they had stolen. The captured Krell were sedated but alive, their 6 eyes occasionally flickering beneath closed lids. Captain, Nguyen called out hours later, I've managed to translate some of their data. It confirms what Dr. Grant found about neural assimilation, but there's worse news. The Krell don't just conquer species, they harvest their neural patterns to enhance their collective intelligence. When they're done, the original species is essentially gone, though their bodies may still serve the collective. Mercer looked at the display showing the approaching Krell fleet, still regrouping after their earlier encounter. So we're not just fighting for our survival, we're fighting for our very identity as a species. Yes, sir, Nguyen replied solemnly. And according to their battle plans, they'll resume their advance toward Earth in less than 48 hours. Mercer's jaw tightened. Then we have 48 hours to come up with a plan that will stop them permanently. The Defiant moved slowly from the nebula, its damaged systems now partly repaired. Captain Mercer had ordered a risky course through an asteroid field where the dense rock formations might hide them from Krell scanners. "Sir, I'm detecting an unusual energy signature ahead," Walsh reported from her tactical station. "It doesn't match any known Krell patterns." "Could it be a trap?" Mercer asked, leaning forward in his chair. "I don't think so," Walsh replied. "The signature is too weak for a warship. It almost seems like a distress signal." Mercer considered their options. With Earth's fate hanging in the balance, any delay could be costly, but his instincts told him to investigate. "Take us closer, but maintain alert status. Carter, be ready to jump us out at the first sign of trouble." As the Defiant approached, they discovered the source of the signal, a small damaged ship drifting between two large asteroids. Its design was unlike anything they had seen before. "No response to hails," Nguyen reported, "but I'm picking up life signs aboard. Very faint." "Prepare a rescue team," Mercer ordered. "Dr. Grant, you'll need to join them. We don't know what kind of life forms we're dealing with." The rescue team found 3 alien survivors on the crippled vessel. They were tall, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their ship had been attacked by Krell forces weeks earlier, and they had been hiding in the asteroid field ever since. Once aboard the Defiant, Dr. Grant worked to stabilize the aliens while Nguyen attempted to communicate with them. The universal translator struggled at first, but eventually began to make sense of their language. "They call themselves the Thalassians," Nguyen explained to Mercer. "They say they're the last survivors of a civilization that was conquered by the Krell 30 years ago." "The last survivors? Of their entire species?" Mercer asked. "No, sir. There are more Thalassians, but they're—" Nguyen paused, searching for the right words. "They've been absorbed into the Krell collective. These 3 escaped during the initial invasion and have been in hiding ever since." The lead Thalassian, who called himself Ambassador Zorith, was brought to the conference room once he was strong enough to walk. His 4 arms moved in graceful patterns as he spoke. "We never thought we would meet another species who could stand against the Krell," he said through the translator. "For decades, we have watched them consume one civilization after another. We haven't beaten them yet," Mercer admitted. "We've only delayed them." "Yet you damaged their command ship," Zorith said with wonder in his voice. "Something no other species has accomplished in 3,000 years. How did you do this?" Chief Engineer Carter explained their phase shield technology and quantum torpedoes as simply as he could. The Thalassian listened with growing excitement. "Your technology approaches problems from angles the Krell have never encountered," he said, "and we have knowledge of Krell biology and tactics gathered over decades of observation. Together, we might actually stand a chance." "A chance at what?" Rodriguez asked skeptically, delaying them again. "No," Zorith replied, his voice suddenly intense. "A chance to free every species they have ever conquered." He used a device on his wrist to project a hologram showing the Krell fleet. "The Krell have a central node ship that contains the collective consciousness of all conquered species. It is their greatest strength, but also their greatest weakness. Destroy it, and the neural patterns of billions of enslaved beings would be released." "And where is this central node?" Mercer asked. "At the heart of their fleet," Zorith replied, "surrounded by thousands of bioships. No vessel has ever gotten close enough to attack it." Pilot Kevin Russell, who had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke up. "The Defiant could do it. With our quantum displacement drive, we could jump directly to the central node." "The drive is still damaged," Carter reminded him. "We might get 1 jump, maybe 2 at most before it fails completely." Mercer looked at the hologram of the massive Krell fleet. The central node ship was unlike any other vessel, resembling a giant neural cluster more than a conventional ship. "1 jump might be all we need," he said, "if we hit them where it hurts the most." The crew of the Defiant worked around the clock. With help from the Thalassians, they modified their weapons and repaired their damaged systems. Dr. Grant and Ambassador Zorith spent long hours in the lab, combining human technology with Thalassian knowledge of Krell biology. The Krell neural network has one critical weakness, Zorith explained, pointing to a display showing the complex structure of Krell brain tissue. Their quantum connections require perfect synchronization. Disrupt that synchronization, and the entire network could collapse. Dr. Grant nodded as he adjusted the molecular structure of their newest weapon. So this bioquantum virus would essentially create noise in their communication system. More than noise, Zorith replied. It would create chaos. Imagine millions of voices suddenly screaming in your mind at once. On the bridge, Captain Mercer and Lieutenant Walsh planned their approach. Using data from the Thalassians, they mapped the typical formation of the Krell fleet. Their patterns are precise, Walsh observed. Too precise. If we can calculate the exact points where their ships will be, we could plot a series of short jumps through their formation. Like stepping stones, Mercer said, studying the display. Each jump taking us closer to the central node. Exactly, Walsh replied. But each jump point would only be safe for a few seconds before Krell ships move to fill the gap. The timing would have to be perfect. Chief Engineer Carter joined them, looking exhausted but determined. Captain, I've done everything possible to strengthen the quantum drive, but I can't guarantee more than 3 jumps before it burns out completely. 3 jumps to get to the central node, Mercer said thoughtfully. Can we do it, Lieutenant? Walsh calculated rapidly. Yes, sir. But it leaves us no way back out. This would be a one-way trip. The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. No one had to say what that meant for the crew of the Defiant. Meanwhile, Admiral Vexnar had regrouped his forces. The damage to his command ship was repaired, though traces of the human attack remained in the ship's biological memory. The scouts have found no sign of the human vessel, Commander Zex reported. It's possible they were destroyed after our encounter. No, Vexnar said firmly. They survived. I can feel it. He moved to the central display showing the fleet's planned advance toward Earth. Resume our original course. If the humans attack again, we will be ready. Back on the Defiant, Mercer called all senior officers to the conference room. The time had come to make their decision. Thanks to the Thalassians, we now have a weapon that could free every species the Krell have conquered, he began. But delivering it requires reaching their central node ship, which means jumping directly into the heart of their fleet with no way out. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Nguyen broke the silence. Earth needs more time to evacuate. Even if we delay the Krell again, they'll keep coming. This might be our only chance to stop them for good. Security Chief Rodriguez nodded in agreement. If what the Thalassians say is true, we wouldn't just be saving humans. We'd be freeing billions of enslaved beings across the galaxy. Carter leaned forward. I can get us there, Captain. The drive will hold for 3 jumps. I'm sure of it. The calculations are complex but possible, Walsh added. I can plot a path through their formation to the central node. Mercer looked at each of his officers, pride swelling in his chest. I won't order anyone to do this. It's beyond the call of duty. With respect, sir, Pilot Russell said with a slight smile, we're already beyond the call of duty. Might as well go all the way. One by one, the officers nodded their agreement. They had come this far together. They would see it through to the end. Very well, Mercer said. We attack in 6 hours. Make sure the bioquantum virus is ready. Once we reach the central node, we'll only have one chance to deploy it. As the meeting ended, the officers returned to their stations with renewed purpose. The fate of Earth, and countless other worlds, now rested on their shoulders. The Defiant's engines hummed to life as they prepared for their final mission. The most daring attack in human history was about to begin. The Defiant emerged from its hiding place, all systems ready for battle. In the distance, the massive Krell fleet moved steadily toward Earth. Thousands of bioships formed a living wall that no conventional attack could penetrate. All hands to battle stations, Mercer ordered. Begin jump sequence on my mark. The crew took their positions. Many had recorded final messages for their families back on Earth. All knew what was at stake. Bioquantum virus is loaded and ready. Dr. Grant reported from the science station. Ambassador Zorith stood beside him, his 4 arms working rapidly to make final adjustments to the delivery system. "Quantum drive at maximum power," Carter said. "She'll give us 3 jumps, Captain. No more." Mercer nodded. "Lieutenant Walsh, are the jump coordinates set?" "Yes, sir. First jump will place us here." She pointed to a spot on the tactical display. "Second jump here. And the final jump will put us within 500 meters of the central node. Pilot Russell, take us in." Russell's hands moved confidently over the controls. "Course set, sir. Ready when you are." Mercer took one last look at his brave crew. "Mark. The quantum displacement drive engage." Space folded around the Defiant, and suddenly they were in the middle of the Krell formation. Immediately, alarm signals blared as enemy weapons locked onto them. "First jump complete," Walsh called out. "Krell ships responding. Second jump in 5 seconds." Krell bioships turned toward the unexpected intruder, but before they could fire, the Defiant jumped again. This time they appeared deeper in the formation, much closer to the central node. Inside his command ship, Admiral Vexnar received the alert with shock. "The humans. They're jumping through our defenses." "Impossible," Commander Zex replied. "No ship could calculate jumps that precise. They're targeting the central node." Vexnar realized with sudden horror. "All ships, converge and protect the node." On the Defiant, systems were starting to fail under the strain. The quantum drive glowed with dangerous heat as it prepared for the final jump. "Drive temperature critical," Carter warned. "The cooling system is failing." "Can we make the third jump?" Mercer asked urgently. Carter worked frantically at his station. "Not unless we vent the drive core manually. Someone would need to go into the drive chamber." The ship rocked violently as Krell weapons found their mark. Shields were failing fast. "I'll do it," Carter said, already moving toward the door. "But you'll need to make the jump as soon as the temperature drops. There won't be time to get back." "Alan, wait," Mercer began, but Carter cut him off. "It's the only way, John. Make it count." Before anyone could stop him, Carter was gone, running to the drive chamber. Moments later, his voice came over the comm. "Manual venting initiated. Drive temperature dropping. You'll have a 10-second window for the jump." "Understood," Mercer replied, his voice tight. "Stand by for final jump." The bridge grew silent as everyone waited. Then Carter's voice came one last time. "Jump window open. Make the jump now." In the background, they could hear warning alarms blaring. "And Captain, it's been an honor." "The honor was mine, Alan," Mercer said. Executing final jump. For the third time, the quantum drive engaged. The Defiant vanished just as Krell ships closed in on its position. When it reappeared, it was directly beside the central node, a massive, brain-like structure pulsing with eerie light. "Drive is completely burned out," Rodriguez reported. "We're not going anywhere." "We don't need to," Mercer replied. "Target the node with everything we have. Launch the virus." The Defiant's remaining weapons fired at the central node. Special torpedoes carrying the bioquantum virus struck their target and burrowed deep before releasing their payload. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire node began to pulse erratically. Waves of energy rippled across its surface. "It's working," Dr. Grant exclaimed, watching the readings on his screen. "The virus is spreading through their network." The Defiant's bridge was in shambles. Systems failed one after another as Krell ships surrounded them, pouring fire into the damaged human vessel. "Hull breach on decks 2 through 5, Rodriguez reported. "Life support failing." Mercer stood amid the chaos, watching as the central node began to break apart. "Did we do enough?" Zorith looked up from the science station, his eyes wide with amazement. "Yes, Captain. The collective is breaking apart. You've done it. You've freed them all." The Defiant drifted amid the chaos of the disintegrating Krell fleet. The central node had completely collapsed, sending waves of energy through the neural network that connected all Krell ships. One by one, the massive bioships went dark or began moving erratically, like puppets with cut strings. On the bridge, Captain Mercer and the surviving crew watched in amazement. Despite the damage to their ship, despite the knowledge that they likely wouldn't survive, a sense of accomplishment filled the air. Life support down to 15 minutes, Rodriguez reported calmly. Hull integrity at 23%. Communications, Mercer asked, turning to Nguyen Station. She shook her head. Long-range comms are offline. We can't reach Earth. Through the view screen, they watched as the Krell ships stopped attacking. Many simply drifted. Others seemed to be fighting themselves, turning weapons on their own kind. The freed neural patterns, Zorith explained, his voice filled with wonder. They're fighting for control of the ships that imprisoned them. Dr. Grant checked his readings. The virus worked even better than we hoped. It didn't just disrupt the network, it completely shattered the Krell's control. So all those species, they're free now? Walsh asked. Yes, Zorith replied. For the first time in thousands of years, they're free to think for themselves again. A sudden alert sounded from Walsh's tactical station. Captain, several vessels are approaching. They don't match Krell signatures. Friendly? Mercer asked, tensing. I think. Walsh studied the readings. Yes, sir. They're Thalassian design. And there are others, ships I don't recognize. Ambassador Zorith stepped forward, his four arms raised in excitement. My people. They must have regained control of their ships when the network collapsed. Within minutes, the Defiant was surrounded by vessels of various designs, each representing a species that had been conquered by the Krell. Instead of attacking, they formed a protective circle around the damaged human ship. We're being hailed, Nguyen announced with surprise. Multiple frequencies, multiple languages. Put them through, Mercer ordered. The speakers crackled with a dozen voices, the universal translator working overtime to keep up. But the message from each was clear. Thank you. Rescue shuttles approached the Defiant, bringing emergency supplies and repair teams. Species that had been enemies under Krell control now worked together to save the humans who had freed them. On the bridge, Mercer received a transmission from a Thalassian captain. We have found survivors in your engineering section. Medical teams are treating them now. What about Chief Engineer Carter? Mercer asked, barely daring to hope. There was a pause before the reply came. I am sorry, Captain. He did not survive. Mercer closed his eyes briefly. He saved us all. As repair teams worked to stabilize the Defiant, Mercer received another surprise. A message from Earth had reached them through the newly formed alliance of freed ships. The evacuation ships are safe, Captain, Nguyen reported, tears in her eyes as she relayed the message. Earth says to tell you they're coming home. And, she paused, overcome with emotion, you have new orders. New orders? Mercer asked. As the highest-ranking survivor of Earth's fleet, you are instructed to begin diplomatic relations with all freed species. Humanity stands ready to help rebuild a free galaxy. Hours later, Mercer stood on the observation deck of the damaged Defiant. Through the viewport, he could see ships of dozens of designs, each representing a species that had regained its freedom. They had formed an honor guard around the human vessel, a gesture of respect that transcended language and culture. Lieutenant Walsh joined him at the viewport. I never thought we'd live to see this, she said quietly. Nobody would have believed a single human warship could change the course of galactic history. Mercer looked out at the gathering of free species, the beginning of a new alliance born from their shared struggle. It wasn't the warship, he replied. It was the people inside it. In the distance, Earth ships approached, bringing supplies and diplomats to meet the newly freed species. What had begun as humanity's last stand had become the first step toward a new future, a galaxy where no species would dominate another again. The Defiant had lived up to its name, and so had humanity.